Welcome back to another episode of Gamers Remorse. I'm sitting here with Alison Haislip at GenCon.
Yeah,
and
GenCon 50.
50, big number.
I realized that took me a while to get to 50. It's like, you can't do that with two hands. Sorry.
So just a few questions for you.
Yeah.
How did it come about that you became the ambassador for IELLO?
Well, I have a friend who's currently working for IELLO. We were friends prior to him working with IELLO, but then when he started at IELLO, he was like, hey, they're thinking about getting a brand ambassador on board. Is that something you would be interested in? And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And that's sort of how I make a lot of decisions with my career. I go, is this going to be fun? Then I will most likely say yes. And how could it not be fun to be working with a board game company? So we went through the whole deal and all that kind of stuff and signed my contract, and then all of a sudden just boxes and boxes and boxes of board games started arriving at my front door. And I was like, oh, I got some work to do, because I'd played some IELLO games, but there are so many.
Right.
So I had to recruit some friends, and we plowed through a bunch of games before I came here.
So of those then, what was your favorite that you actually got to play through?
What I really love is Sea of Clouds. It's a very simple game, and I like that it's a game that you can pick up and with just another friend, learn it in a few minutes, play through a game in 15 minutes. And there's also something about tallying up points at the end of the game. And like knowing who wins then, as opposed to when you're playing through the game and you're like, I'm doing so horribly, there's no way I'm gonna win. Like it's not until you get to the end that you're really like, ooh, what happened? What actually happened throughout this? So I love that one.
Okay. Is there any forthcoming title that has you extremely excited?
Well, I just got to play it for the first time last night, but Mountains of Madness, oh my gosh. This game is so fun. I played it with 4 strangers. So yeah, there were 5 of us total. Never met these people before in my life. And by the end of the game, we were like high-fiving, cheering, like chest bumping. Like it was awesome. And the mechanics in this game, the fact that it's a game that actually makes you feel like you are going insane is so cool to me. It's so cool.
I don't know. There's something about like going insane and like losing.
Yeah. But there are games out there that have you communicate with your teammates in different ways, but I don't know of a game that changes it up almost every round.
Okay.
And it requires your teammates to figure out what it is that's making you mad. Like you have to interpret what it is. Like one of the guys last night was like, I have May crates. And we were like, many crates? You have many crates? He's like, no, I have May crates. And we were like, May. And then someone was like, oh my God, he means the month of May. It's a 5. He has 5 crates. And we were like, like just piecing that together. That's the fun of it. And then you also have these challenges you're supposed to do, but it's almost like the mechanic of the game is the fun part.
Right. So I guess kind of going into that, what are your favorite kinds of games to play?
I'm a puzzler. I like solving puzzles. I always say that I'm also known in the video game world. My video games are Portal and Uncharted. Like those are my two series. They're my favorite. Lock me in a room. Let me figure out how to get out of it. Like that's my thing. Obviously, I do a lot of escape rooms too. So it's the same with board games. Anything that helps me puzzle things out. I really like Mountains of Madness. I've really come to love games that it is more co-op. It's you and the other players against the game, as opposed to you against the other players.
Right.
Yeah.
What was it that first got you into board gaming?
Well, really my family. Gaming's just been a huge part of my family from day one, basically. I started playing video games when I was 5, and it was always a big family tradition at the holidays that you'd sit down and play Trivial Pursuit. And, it was a big deal when it was like me and my brother against my parents, and me and my brother kind of won, Or when my mother would bring us to take your kids to work day. She's a teacher at a college, and so we obviously wouldn't go to the classes with her. When she was teaching, my brother and I would sit in her office and play Life or Monopoly or Scrabble or those kind of, So gaming's just always been in my family routine. But it really wasn't until I became friends with Will Wheaton, sorry, I'll pick that name back up, and he invited me to be a part of Tabletop, that I understood where board gaming had gone. At that point in my life, it was like Taboo and Cranium and like those party games, and I didn't realize that board games had become as in-depth and creative as they had until Will opened my eyes to a whole new world of games.
Okay. Was there like a specific game that really just kind of set you into motion with this is a hobby that I really want to stick with?
Ooh. A specific game. This is gonna sound like I was paid to say this, but I do actually remember the tabletop day where we played the Tortoise and the Hare, which is one of the IELLO games.
Yep.
And that was one of the games where I went, oh, this is such a, the game is this big. It's a tiny, tiny little game, but there's so much. It's so clever. It's so clever, and at the same time, it's so intuitive with how the mechanics work. That I was like, oh, I see what's happening with games now. And it took a very simple story, a story that everyone knows, and it turned it into this really fun game that just never gets boring.
Now, being the ambassador here at IELLO, has that expanded not just your eyes to board games, but we're here at GenCon, has it expanded your presence in conventions, different conventions that you might not have gone to before?
Well, this is my first GenCon. I had never been here before, and I was so I had no idea what to expect. And I was really excited when I was walking through all the hotels that are attached to the convention center, and they have tables set up specifically so people can just game there, which I think is so cool that the city embraces what this convention is all about. It also, to me, feels like, and I mean this with all the love, it feels like the nerdiest convention I've been to. And I say that because most of the conventions I go to also involve pop culture, like TV and movies, and so there's Hollywood aspects to it. And this one is just pure, everyone who's here is here because they love gaming. There's no, pardon my French, bullshit behind this. It's like just people who want to find games and find people who like similar games and play games, and that's it. And I think that's really cool because, and it's sold out this year. What is that, like 92,000 people came to Indianapolis of all places to play board games? Like, that's incredible that it has that kind of draw.
Now that you said this is your first time, what are you thinking of it so far? I mean, we just talked about how it is just the convention of board games. I mean, I know that you're being the ambassador here, just kind of sitting here with random no-name YouTubers, but how is it that you've really been finding the experience? I mean, like random people coming up, like maybe not even knowing who you are, just like playing games, watching play games.
Well, I think that's the cool thing about what I've been doing with IELLO and my little Alison character is that there are a lot of people who have come up while I've been doing these signings and who are like, I've been a fan of yours since G4, or I'm a huge fan of your podcast and things like that. But there are people who just love these characters and these games so much that they don't really know who I am. They just know that this thing is modeled after me, so they just want my autograph for that reason. So there's definitely a really cool outreach with that. But honestly, I'm just really impressed with I've been to so many conventions. I'm impressed at how calm this one feels. Like no one's frantic, the crowds aren't insane. Everyone just seems to be here for a good time. So there isn't a lot of that like, oh, I have to push my way through the crowd because I don't want anyone to notice me. It's like, no, we're all here for the same reason. So the community, that's really what this place is about.
All right. Well, thank you. I have one final question.
Yeah?
We have this question that we've been asking everyone about Grail games, like games that are hard to find, are out of print. Do you have any games that you would consider a Grail game?
Grail game. Man, I just learned about the auction that they have here. I think that's so cool. What would I consider a Grail game? Man, like what from my childhood would be amazing? Oh, what was Mastermind? Is that what that game was with the pegs? Like, and you had to just move colorful pegs around?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, that's how old it is. I just remember that being like one of my parents' favorite games and me playing that a lot as a kid, and I don't know if that exists anymore.
I have no idea.
It definitely doesn't exist in the form that my parents had it, because it was these tiny little pegs that obviously children would choke on. There's like no way they sell it this way anymore. But yeah, I would say like an old school Mastermind would be my Grail game. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, there you have
Now
it.
you have to go look that up.
Yeah, I have Google on my phone, so
Yeah.
I'll be looking that up after this. But so yeah, this has been Gamers Remorse. Thanks to Alison Haislip for taking the time and giving us an interview.